Follow the bright light. That's all the instructions these individuals were given through a rural route through the East County of San Diego. This actually a good friend of mine. This actually happened to her sister and her brother-in-law. They live. They live actually still. They're still out there. They live in a very rich community. They're very well off. He is very successful. So they have a, what I guess what you would call like a little mini mansion out in the East County, and this particular area has a community gate where you come in and out. So you must check in, and they'll actually watch you leave the actual premises as a guest, and so security is there, it's provided there, and along with the sheriff, but when you have your private security, the sheriffs tend to back off, tend to not get into the actual gated community's business. You know what I'm saying? So with uh, this happened not often, but it happened enough to where it became a joke. But then again, it became a serious problem at the end because the fact that there could have been, and there probably was, there probably good chance that there would have been consequences for our friends, just for the reason aiding and abetting. You know, I mean, it's one of them situations where unfortunately, a lot of people, and a lot of agents do fall into that category of not trying to help a loved one or help a family member. And this happened, like I've said, another way, this happened a lot. You know, what I mean, people are put in some situations where you cannot help. You know, what I mean, and unfortunately, there are laws, and these particular law enforcement agents, they were, were put in a different, different level, and more of a higher consequences, if I should say something like that. But anyway, so they're very well off. They had a nice, good sized home, along with the barn, and of course some motorhomes and all, so forth. They're still there. He's still very successful throughout this pandemic, also. So, uh, what can only describe it as a hidden trail, where actually hikers can go out and actually walk this trail in what would be their actual backyards, not physically their backyards, but their back scenery. So with time, the wife was there alone with the kids, and there was a knock at the door, and there was this gentleman who asked for help. Uh, he looked like a migrant worker, and from what I understand, as he was talking to to the wife and the kids, which by the way they did not know. They knew just enough to get by in Spanish, but the actual husband, he's fluent in Spanish. He was Mexican, fluent in Spanish, and he rolls up on him, and the man asked for for some water and some food if he had it available. And of course, I mean, good-hearted people, they offered him, some help, and uh, the husband offered him, a few bucks if he wanted to, if he was willing to do some chores around the house, just for the fact that he has a pretty big sized lot, you know what I mean, and they're always, weed whacking and landscaping that, uh, it's never ending. So he's there for a couple of days, and they put him up in a motorhome, and so he has to make a phone call, and I didn't think anything of it, and so he lets them know that they're going to be picking him up, and if they can actually take him down to a corner gas station, not far from the actual entrance to these estates. So actually a name brand gas station. So they agreed, and he dropped them off. Everything was good, you know. Everything was well, and there was no animosity. There was everything was actually it worked out for both parties, you know. And so, but you know, now this is him telling the story. Now him thinking about it, it all made sense because he would not allow him to take him to this corner gas station until they made contact with with him, right? So now that they're actually there waiting for him, my let's call my friend. My friend dropped them off at the gas station, and they went on the merry way, and that was the extent of it. Didn't think anything of it. A couple of months passed, and the wife again gets a knock at the door. It's actually everybody's home now because this is late at night. I remember this for a fact because it was kind of drizzling, and this lady, his mom and daughter come by the door. They knock and they ask if again they ask for something to drink, something to eat, and just to get out of the actual, you know, out of the rain and stuff, and they asked if they could, you know, use the phone, and so he obliged and everything, and it was already late at night, so uh, they actually start to actually walk down the driveway, and of course, in these type of communities, that would be really odd because the fact that why is somebody leaving the property on foot? You know what I mean? Not unless they're day laborers and they have to actually check in with the actual with the with the entrance to the actual community. You know, so that would be strange to see this type of behavior at this hour of the night. You know, so they asked if they had anywhere to go, and they said, well, they were going to go make a phone call at the nearest payphone, and what ended up happening was that the wife said, "Oh, I want you guys to stay and tomorrow, you know, call." And they again, they this is like 2 or 3 months later though. They actually set them up in a little motorhome and wash their clothes and you know do the whole hospitality thing. And they communicate with somebody through via phone, and they agree that the next following day they were going to pick them up. It's a family member, right? So now they're actually uh, giving a ride to again to this gas station again, and anything of it. And so now the husband and wife are kind of like you know just actually talking about it out loud. You know, I mean, not just thinking, they're talking about it and everything. And about 4 months later, it happened again, and here we go, and it's this gentleman again, same scenario. And so my friend said, "Oh, you know, go ahead and stay here, blah blah, and the next morning we'll take care of it and everything." And as all this is being played out, uh, now my friend is actually describing this to me, and I kind of like really do pay attention. I focus on this, and I tell her, by any chance, do they have a particular nightlight that's really bright, that's not actually facing any kind of direction? It's not facing a road. It's not facing an actual bush area or a hillside. It's just a illumination of a light. And she says yes. And I go, you know what? They're using that light as a guide, as a guide. I go, somebody is actually bringing them up to a certain point, and after that certain point, they're guided by your your sister's bright light, and they're using that as a reference. And to tell you the truth, I said the ones that are stopping by are the ones that actually got left behind, or the ones that are actually lost from a group. I go, they're using that light as a reference, but these groups are not stopping. These groups are actually siding the hillside and probably popping up in a pickup spot with the coyote because of the fact that that your house is not that close to the border, but yet it's about a 2 day walk. Now, when I say 2 day walk, if they're going to be hiding and walking, they can't really hide out. They can't really walk out in the open because they can get viewed by a helicopter, by technology. So when I say a 2 day, it's not a 2 day constant walk. It's a breakdown of laying up. When I say laying up, they're going to be under a bush, under a tree, some kind of cover. Okay? And so that's exactly what was happening. And I told them, I told them, tell your brother-in-law, he needs to get rid of that light. I go, as much as it illuminates his property and it keeps out the big cats away from the actual from your home, and just for the illumination, I go, he's got to get some spot. He's got to get some sensor lights. He got to do something because that light's going to get him in trouble. And if they were to find out that he was actually helping him out at some point, even though this particular landowner is not immigration, he's not any kind of law enforcement, so that is not his responsibility. But it would be responsibility to actually make a phone call to law enforcement. That's what they'll get. That's where they'll get you. Because I could say, hey, I'm not a cop. What do I know? You know what I mean? I'm not a border patrol agent. What do I know? You know? But that's how they actually will, because you're supposed to report any kind of illegal activity, any kind of suspicious activity. And so for them not to actually acknowledge and actually call it in, they can technically be responsible because they're actually aiding and abetting via their property, and you can lose your property, you can lose everything actually, just by that action itself. And they ended up having to get rid of that actual light, but their actual house light was actually a marker. It was a reference point, and unfortunately, these people that were actually lost were able to find their way, and they were actually fortunate enough to actually make contact with the relative and everything. And trust me, just because uh, this particular family, this particular landowner, didn't collect on that actual crossing of that successful crossing of that of them people, the coyotes, oh, they're gonna find out. They're gonna find out. They're still gonna have to pay either way, even though they didn't actually have pick them up or actually deliver them to where they're gonna be delivered. They're gonna get theirs because they actually got them through a successful route. And what are you gonna say? No? And they're the type to just pick you up and take you back down south just to prove a point. And they have done that, and they will do that. You know. And that's just another interesting fun fact from actually from the rural part of San Diego. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys.